Welcome to Grand Prix, your go-to channel for the fastest updates in Formula One. We've got 3 hot stories for you, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the pack. Let's get started. The Canadian Grand Prix delivered plenty of drama, but few moments were as tense or emotionally charged as the late race clash between McLaren teammates Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. The incident, which occurred in the final laps of the race, left fans divided and the McLaren garage in a state of visible disappointment. Norris, who had been pushing hard in the closing stages to gain ground, attempted an ambitious move on Piastri that ultimately resulted in contact between the two cars. The maneuver didn't pay off, and it not only compromised Norris' position but also led to a loss of valuable championship points for both drivers. Immediately after the race, the Formula One community was buzzing with opinions. Did Norris lose his composure? Was it a miscalculated risk? Or was it simply the price of intra-team competition in such a tightly contested midfield? In the post-race interviews, Norris was quick to take full responsibility for the incident. There was no attempt to shift blame or sugarcoat what had happened. He candidly admitted that it was a clear mistake on his part, stating that he should not have made that move and that the fault lay entirely with him. "It was my fault," Norris said. "I thought I could make the move stick, but I misjudged the situation. I feel terrible for the team and for Oscar." Norris went on to express deep regret for not only the contact, but also for letting down the team at a time when every point counts. He acknowledged that McLaren had a strong chance to secure more championship points, and his error had directly impacted that opportunity. "I made a mistake. I should have been more patient. I let my emotions get the better of me," he confessed. His comments reflected a level of maturity and accountability that, while not erasing the mistake, certainly painted him in a more respectful light. Perhaps the most telling moment came off-camera during the interview area when Norris spotted Piastri and immediately walked over to apologize in person. The interaction was brief but heartfelt. Norris paused his own media duties to approach his teammate and express his remorse directly. Piastri, for his part, appeared to accept the apology without hesitation, and there was no visible sign of lingering animosity. Their exchange suggested a desire on both sides to move forward and maintain harmony within the team. This moment of accountability stood in stark contrast to many high-profile driver clashes in the past, where apologies were delayed or avoided altogether. While tensions often run high in the competitive world of Formula One, the professionalism shown by both drivers in the aftermath of the incident has helped to calm fears of any major internal rift at McLaren. Still, the question lingers. Could this be the start of deeper tension between the two young drivers? As both continue to develop their careers and fight for supremacy within the team, incidents like this may become harder to avoid. Team orders, individual ambitions, and the razor-thin margins in modern F1 all contribute to a volatile mix. For now, however, McLaren fans can breathe a sigh of relief. The situation appears contained, and both drivers seem committed to working together. What remains to be seen is how the team will manage similar situations in the future. Will there be stricter rules of engagement? Will one driver emerge as the clear number one? Or will McLaren continue to encourage free racing between its drivers, even at the risk of internal clashes? This past weekend brought more than just another race to the Formula One calendar. One of the key concerns circulating in the paddock was the precarious situation involving Max Verstappen's super license. The Red Bull driver is currently just 1 penalty point away from a race suspension, a reality that has the team on high alert and, apparently, in a defensive posture. Any incident or FIA penalty deemed serious enough could trigger the automatic suspension, sidelining Verstappen for an entire race, a potentially massive blow to Red Bull's campaign. With this risk looming, it's reported that during the pre-race team briefing with the FIA, Red Bull took the unusual step of expressing their concern about what they suggested could be strategic manipulation by rival teams. According to several sources, Red Bull directly warned the FIA that some teams might try to orchestrate scenarios or provoke incidents that would force Verstappen into a mistake or into receiving a penalty, thus activating the suspension clause. Red Bull reportedly requested that race director Ray Marquez stay vigilant and watch for any behavior that might appear engineered to provoke Verstappen into a punishable action. The team wasn't just speculating. They went a step further by formally protesting George Russell's driving in the final laps of the Canadian Grand Prix. Red Bull accused the Mercedes driver of erratic behavior and alleged that he performed an intentional brake check that could have trapped Verstappen into making a move that would result in a penalty. From Red Bull's perspective, Russell's maneuver could have set the stage for Verstappen to unintentionally cross the line, literally and figuratively. However, the FIA opted not to penalize either driver. Russell escaped without sanction, and Verstappen's point tally remained unchanged, avoiding the worst-case scenario for Red Bull. Despite this outcome, the incident only intensified Red Bull's suspicions that Verstappen could become the target of on-track politics in the races to come. Red Bull's actions appear to be part of a broader strategy to maintain pressure on the FIA and, at the same time, publicly highlight the risks Verstappen faces. Speaking after the race, team principal Christian Horner noted that in high-stakes title fights, it's not unusual for rival teams to look for any opportunity to unsettle a dominant driver. He even hinted that similar tactics have been used in the past and suggested that the Canadian GP was a clear example of those dynamics playing out again. It's expected that Red Bull will continue this line of communication with the FIA at upcoming races. The team's concern is not only for Verstappen's driving conduct, but also for how closely his actions are scrutinized under the shadow of that near-suspension status. Verstappen, however, remains defiant. Speaking candidly to the press earlier in the weekend, he made it clear that he would not change his driving style, stating that losing a race might not be ideal, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. In his words, "I'm not going to change the way I race. I'll do everything the best way I can. But I'm not going to drive differently just because of a number on my license." Do you think Red Bull is right to be worried? Are rival teams really trying to provoke Verstappen into making a mistake? Or is it simply part of racing at the highest level, where mental games are just as important as speed? What a dramatic end to the Canadian Grand Prix. Even after the checkered flag had fallen, the race result was momentarily under threat, at least for the winner, George Russell. Red Bull lodged a formal protest to the FIA, requesting that Russell be penalized, which could have potentially stripped him of his hard-fought victory. The issue? According to Red Bull, Russell's behavior behind the safety car in the final laps was improper and violated the sporting regulations. Specifically, the team accused him of brake testing, slowing down unnecessarily on multiple occasions, one of which reportedly caused Max Verstappen to briefly overtake him, something that's not supposed to happen under safety car conditions. Red Bull also argued that Russell was repeatedly leaving too much distance between his Mercedes and the safety car ahead. FIA regulations require that drivers maintain a reasonably consistent gap, especially in the final laps leading up to a race restart or the finish. Deviating from this protocol can lead to safety concerns and sporting advantages. Following the protest, both drivers and team representatives were summoned to appear before the race stewards. Each side presented its version of the events. Red Bull maintained that Russell's actions could have provoked an illegal maneuver or accident, potentially even targeting Verstappen's precarious license situation, as he's only one penalty point away from a race ban. Mercedes, for their part, denied any wrongdoing. They argued that Russell's actions were entirely within the usual margins of race procedure under a safety car. And apparently, the FIA agreed. In an official statement released after their decision, the FIA explained that the incident had already been reviewed during the race, and no punitive action was deemed necessary at that time. They emphasized that a certain amount of leeway is always granted regarding the gap to the safety car, especially when the field is bunching up or preparing for a restart. Moreover, the FIA clarified that drivers routinely accelerate and brake behind the safety car in order to maintain optimal tire temperatures and brake pressure, both crucial factors for performance and safety once racing resumes. Based on the data and testimony provided, the stewards concluded that George Russell did not breach any specific rule and that his conduct, while perhaps aggressive, was not unusual or punishable. With that, Russell's victory was confirmed, and Max Verstappen retained second place in what proved to be another high-stakes chapter of this season's title fight. This protest underscores the growing tension between Red Bull and other teams, particularly as Verstappen remains on the brink of a one-race suspension due to his penalty point situation. It's clear that Red Bull is extremely sensitive to any scenario that might put him at further risk and is proactively challenging any incidents they perceive as potentially targeted or manipulative. That said, not everyone agrees with Red Bull's perspective. Some fans and analysts believe the team is overreacting, trying to sway stewards with pressure tactics. Others sympathize, acknowledging that when a driver of Verstappen's caliber is on the edge of suspension, every on-track interaction becomes high stakes, and even minor infractions can spark major consequences. So, was Red Bull justified in filing the protest? Was the FIA right to reject it? These are the questions now circulating in the paddock and among fans worldwide.